We didn't leave our jobs with the resources or the finances or the networks. We left our jobs because we had a passion in our heart and something we believed we were called to do, and we were willing to risk it all and to learn how to do it.
This is The Entrepreneur Way with Neil Ball. Unlocking the secrets of successful entrepreneurs 7 days a week. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter at Neil D. Ball. Napoleon Hill said the power of the mastermind is the driving force. To discover how you can unlock the potential in your business using the power of a mastermind, go to mastermindunlimited.com. And now, here is your host, Neil Ball.
Hello, it's Neil Ball. Thank you so much for joining me today on The Entrepreneur Way. The Entrepreneur Way is about the entrepreneur's journey, the vision, the mindset, the commitment, the sacrifice, failures and successes. I am so excited to bring you our special guest today, Sarah Rusca and Samantha Messersmith. But before I introduce you to them, I have a quote for you. Richard Bach said, "The simplest questions are the most profound. Where were you born? Where is your home? Where are you going? What are you doing? Think about these once in a while and watch your answers change." The Entrepreneur Way asks the questions so we all get the insights, inspiration and ideas to apply in our businesses. Sarah and Samantha, welcome to the show. Are you ready to share your version of the Entrepreneur Way with us?
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming on the show. Sarah Rusca and Samantha Messersmith are life coaches, relationship experts, motivational speakers, and co-founders of Never Be Average. Their mission is to change women's lives through their soul. They help women build confidence, overcome adversity, set health boundaries, fall in love with themselves, and design the life they want to live. Sarah and Samantha, can you provide us with some more insight into your business and personal life to allow us to get to know more about what you do and who you are?
Absolutely. Samantha and I, we climbed the corporate ladder for almost a decade. We were in the financial institution and leadership roles. We loved leading teams. We loved the personal development of our teams. And about 2 years ago, as a hobby, we decided to found Never Be Average. We built our website, and it really, our gear was just to write advice columns for women. And what happened was it took off, and what kind of drove that passion was in the last 14 years, between the two of us, we faced life-changing experiences like marriage, divorce, infidelity, being held at gunpoint, getting kicked out of college, losing a career, unhealthy friendships, some pretty hot topics. And we just wanted to have an outlet so that we could use our advice and be a voice for women. And what happened was it took off, and pretty quickly we were reaching women around the world and building a network, and a passion took over that we never knew existed, and it became this itch that we couldn't scratch. And 9 months ago, we looked at each other and said, you know, let's take this leap of faith. Our passion's bigger than climbing the corporate ladder, and we're willing to risk it all. So we left the comfort of security and a paycheck and bonuses and 401k and all the glitz and the glamour that comes with it being in the corporate world, to go after our passion. And so today, you know, we now have become life coaches. We wrote a book. We are motivational speakers. So we have our hands in a bunch of different pots, but it all started just from, you know, building a website and following a passion of ours.
Mm-hmm. So Never Be Average is your business for your life coaching business. Can you just tell me more about the types of people you work with?
Yes, absolutely. Never Be Average is our brand. It's what we stand for. And what Never Be Average really means is when we decided to do this, we looked at each other and thought, you know, what do we stand for and what have we learned? And what we've learned is life is really precious. Life is really short, and we don't want to live an average life. And that doesn't mean by, you know, jets and big bank accounts and those kind of things. It's, you know, living the best life that was designed for you. So the women we're really passionate about helping, and you know, especially with our life coaching specifically, it's women who struggle struggle in relationships. So if it's a relationship with themselves, with their family, with their significant other, or even with their friends, we want to help them by sharing our personal experiences and then go through theirs. And the great thing is by having two of us, you really get that yin yang effect. So if one of us hasn't been through it, the other person has, and the other person's been the support through it. So you really get where we can diagnose a situation from the root cause and give you a well-rounded, action plan that's going to create lasting results.
Mm-hmm. So you make money from doing consultations with people or coaching with people. Would that be right?
Yes, we make money in 3 different ways. We make money through life coaching. We also make money through speaking. And then we also make money off of our book on Amazon. So it's kind of a trio effect.
Okay. And what do you enjoy most about what you do?
Touching people's lives, seeing the results. It's interesting to see a client that comes that's suffering from pain or hurt or anxiety or whatever they're suffering with, and then to see the lasting result 12 weeks later or however long it takes, to see life shine through and to see passions come out of them that they never knew they had, or to break free from pain and regret, or to forgive themselves through guilt that they may be having, and to see that process of where an individual starts to where they can be. And that's usually still just even the beginning of their journey. That's what motivates us. That's what inspires us. That's what keeps us going.
Mm-hmm. So do you have an example of how you've actually done that for somebody?
Absolutely. We touched a client who found us actually through social media and through our articles and stuff that we would share on there. And we did not know who she was. And so she found us through that and found out what our services were. And she actually was a licensed therapist. And she reached out and said, here's what I do for a living. I help people and I help them with their issues and their problems and things like that. And, I myself am in a toxic relationship and I can't even get out of it. And I don't really have an outlet to go to because I'm perceived as I'm supposed to know everything. And so that has been one of our most life-changing, personally inspirational examples of watching an individual who was perceived to have known how to handle the situation and did not have an outlet, and then to watch her get out of the toxic relationship, thrive in her business, and to find happiness.
Mm-hmm. So how do you actually make the change in people? What is it you do that actually creates that change?
So it's not necessarily what we do, it's what they do. So our best clients are people who are ready for change. We use it as like jumping off of a cliff. Either people who want to make the jump, but they don't know how, or people who've just made the jump and they don't know what to do next. What we've learned is people have to come to this in their own timing. And so when they're ready, we're there to help. And, through our book, So What Now, we use that in our coaching program, 12 weeks to design the life that was created for you. And what we do is we listen to them, we diagnose the root cause of whatever it is that the issue that they're dealing with, and then we give them actionable steps that they can put into their life every day that are small and are easy to get where they want to be, to remove negative influences, to make peace and forgive. And we do that through sharing tips with them and advice, but they find the results through implementing those. We call it a AAA effect. So it's awareness, accountability, and action. So the first thing we do is help them become aware of, the role that they play and where they're at, and then to become accountable to the role they play and what they can do next, and then to start putting those steps into action, and that's where we see results.
And what is it that drives you?
What do you mean, what drives us?
Well, what drives you to do what you do in terms of your business, in terms of your life, everything?
Yeah. What drives us is our experience. And, when you go through life-changing events and for myself, I didn't have really outlets or, I felt like I didn't have people to talk to where I was going through these things. And so our passion drives us is to be an outlet for women. And there's not enough women supporting women out there. And a lot of times there's a more competition. And so what really drives us is this healthy environment where women can come as they are, as raw as themselves, and to be as vulnerable and understand that that change is possible, happiness is possible. And, for Samantha and I on our own journey, we didn't just get here, we didn't wake up and be like, wow, this is so easy. Change is so easy. We went through, a decade of trials and tribulations where we didn't know how to handle it. And so we're here to help women move further faster. And that's where our passion is if we can help any woman that moves further faster than we did through the process, that's what keeps us going.
And how do you relax when you're not working in your business?
Well, living in the Pacific Northwest, the outdoors is absolutely amazing all year round. There's skiing during the winter. There's being on the lake and hikes during the summer, running all season round because the rain doesn't stop us. So Samantha and I were very active. And so, kayaking also during the summer. There's a lot of just getting out there in nature and just getting back to your center and being one based with the universe.
Do you have any entrepreneurial role models?
Absolutely. I'd say, a lot of our entrepreneurial role models are people who we've actually never met, but we follow. That's what's the beauty in social media these days, and the internet world, the viral world is, you can use it for all the right reasons. And so some of our biggest mentors is Joel Osteen, Steve Harvey, Andy Andrews, and Clayton Jennings, who's not as big of a name, but they definitely have pushed us through this process and help us continue to keep going.
What I'd like to know now is just talk about the time before you were an entrepreneur. What difficulties did you have to overcome when you started your business?
Initially starting our business is we had no idea what we were doing. I mean, we were both leaders in the financial industry. That has nothing to do with website design. That has nothing to do with writing articles. It has nothing to do with coaching people. I mean, in the sense of through online and doing it yourself. We coached our individual employees, but we had to do everything on our own. We had to learn how to build a website. We had to learn how to write. We had to learn how to videotape ourselves and put that on our website. We had to learn how to pitch to large publications. We had to learn how to pitch for speaking opportunities. We've literally had to learn how to do everything. We didn't leave our jobs with the resources or the finances or the networks. We left our jobs because we had a passion in our heart and something we believed we were called to do, and we were willing to risk it all and to learn how to do it.
And did you have any doubts that delayed you starting your business?
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the hardest things is, in the viral world, there's so much information. And at first you think that that's a good thing. But very quickly we realized that we could get caught up in everyone's opinions, meaning if you want to build a website or how to market your website or how to pitch, there's 1,000 different ideas out there that are right there. And so you're like, well, I see this person is saying this, and then this other website say that I should do this. And so you can get really caught up in it. Seems very overwhelming. It seems really big, and it seems impossible. And so what we really learned through that was to kind of scale back and filter through what was the important information and kind of narrow our scope instead of we went too big too quick. And what's helped us is really narrowing the information so that we weren't getting overwhelmed with over information.
So how did you make the decision of what was useful to you and what wasn't useful, or how you were going to focus yourself?
It became into priorities. And so, what's the end goal? So the end goal is to become motivational speakers. So how do we glide path back to that? And, where it starts is getting your voice out there. So having a solid website is key. So that's where we started first, so that you have a nice brand that looks professional. And then getting out there on like larger publications. So pitching to, we write for the Good Men's Project, Mind Body Green, the Indie Chicks. And so that's getting more pitching those things. So that became our next thing. So once we got in there, then it was, okay, now we need a product. So then it was the book, because if we're writing for large publications and people come to our website, what are we going to be able to sell? And then from the book, we realized we could apply this to life coaching. It's a spiral effect, but it's a glide path to the big picture, but you got to scale back and think of the steps first.
What mistakes did you make that slowed your journey?
It's hard to say if it's a mistake or not. I think that what slowed our journey is not having the finances or the resources or the networks going into it. So understanding where we were going to spend the money we did have, what could quicken our journey would be to have a coach or a mentor that was hands-on with us, who guided us every step of the way. That would definitely make our journey faster. But where were we at? We had to just take it, one step at a time. And I think what would slow our journey is not trusting our gut and decisions. That would be one thing that's held us back in different areas. And it's always getting back to your center and getting back to your mission and what you believe in and what you're trying to do. And it's really easy to get sidetracked from that.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the things that you did before you started your business that would be helpful tips to some of the listeners who haven't yet taken the first step on the entrepreneur way?
Well, a couple of things. I mean, we didn't leave our jobs without having a following and having the traffic that we were having to our website. And then I think the biggest thing is being completely vulnerable of putting yourself out there. And so, a lot of times it can be very intimidating to email, pitch. But surprisingly, by us doing it, and you're going to get a ton of no's, rejection, or just no one emailing you back, and your pitches will start off horrible and then they'll get better. But a lot of times we fail to look at that opportunity and we fail to make that step because we're intimidated by it, when really there's nothing to lose. If you want this and this is going to be your dream and your job, you got to put your pride at the door. And some of Samantha and I's mentors that have we had a woman that helped us build our website. We had consulting, and then we had another consultant down the road too, and that did it for free for us because we just kept willing to send out all these emails. And what happens is it's a numbers game. And eventually we got some response that said, hey, I'm willing to sit down and talk and hear what you have to offer. And it led to great conversations where they said, we actually just want to help you. And so I think it's really the best advice is, making sure that when you do this, you're willing to give it all and that there's nothing in your way where you self-guess your worth.
Mm-hmm. Well, you certainly overcame your fear of sending emails, because I remember when you tried to get on this show, you didn't give up on it. So that's definitely the case.
We felt like we could help your audience.
Well, thank you for your persistence. What I'd like to do now is talk about your entrepreneurial journey a little bit more, Sarah and Samantha. So do you think culture is important from the beginning in a business?
Yes, absolutely. I think the number one thing we heard going through this, and the number one thing we've seen to be true, is to know your audience and to build your culture around that, to not try to be everything for everybody, to come to your center, who it is you want to help, why you want to help them, and what they're looking to get out of it. And so I think that's incredibly important. That would, I say, probably something that held us back a little bit in the beginning too, was, we left before we really understood that. And now that we have a good grasp around, specifically who our audience is, and we're not for everybody, and accepting that that's okay and continuing to pursue that has been a huge win for us.
Mm-hmm. So how did you figure out who your audience are or is?
We got back to our center. Why did we start this? Why did we start Never Be Average? Why are we so passionate about it? Why were we willing to leave our corporate jobs to do this? And we realized that it's, the everyday woman who doesn't get enough recognition. There's a lot of help out there for women who are going through, massive traumatic experiences. And there's not a lot of openness for women who are just struggling, whether it's in their relationship with their husband or their relationship with their boss or their relationship with their family, the everyday things that we don't feel comfortable talking about because we're afraid of judgment and criticism, and we're supposed to have it all together. And, that's where we were at, and going through the things we went through and realizing that, nobody's alone and nobody's exempt from life happening. And so we realized our audience was us. Mm-hmm. And so once we could stick to that and stick to that core, it really helped us.
So you figured that there's more people like yourselves out there. So if you target yourself, then you should be talking to those people as well who are in similar situations.
Absolutely. And, because there's so many outreach programs, and a lot of times, even a lot of my girlfriends, when we'll sit down and have wine and we chat about life stuff. And, one of my girlfriends says, she doesn't think she's not happy, but she says, I don't feel like I need to go to therapy because what am I going to do? I haven't been abused or things like that. And I think there's such a false perception of self-love and living the life that was designed for you that in order to go after that, something bad, really bad has to happen. And so we're really that outlet for women that are just, they know that they want something more. They just don't know how to get it. And they feel like they don't really have an outlet to find out what that is.
Mm-hmm. Knowing what you know now, is there anything that if you'd known it when you started out would have helped you to shortcut the learning curve?
I would say to celebrate the small wins. Again, when you go after something, you focus on the end goal, and the end goal is huge. I mean, entrepreneurs, it never ends. You reach a goal and there's the next one. And so when you focus, for us in the beginning, we really focused on the big picture, and we failed to recognize all these small little wins, even just building our website. I mean, that was huge, but we failed for a minute to stop and say, hey, we just did this. Let's celebrate this, and then we'll move on. And so I think the biggest lesson and what we do now, what we apply is we take a look back and we recognize, okay, let's celebrate these small little steps, and then we'll focus on the next step.
So you left your job, and when you left your job, you were not making any money out of what you're doing right now. Am I right in assuming that?
Yes.
Yeah, so you must have had some money saved to carry you through that time until you were making money out of this. Is that the case?
We did. Fortunately, it was just from being responsible, not necessarily from preparing to leave, because we actually only made the decision to leave our job 6 weeks before we did it.
Yeah.
And we felt like it was, now or never. If we keep waiting for a plan, we're never going to be ready.
So how long did it take you to get to the point where you were actually making money out of what you do now so you could actually live off it?
About 6 months.
Is that longer or less time than you thought it would take?
I think it's a mix of it, because it's still, you can live off of it, but it's still not financial abundancy, which I think anybody who leaves to start their own business, especially when they're really passionate about it, you kind of expect that to come quicker. And it's been a very humbling experience in knowing that, that's going to come in the future. And it's about having faith in the process of what we're doing now. So I would say it's a mix.
Mm-hmm. And how much does gut feeling influence your decisions in your business?
Everything. I think that the discernment that we're learning in the process is the most incredible growth, is learning when to say no or when to say yes. And, we've had doors open where we just haven't felt like it was the right fit. And so we ended those connections or networking, or we didn't take an opportunity that seemed good, but we said, that's just really not where we fit. And then on the other side, there's been, areas of what we've been really nervous to walk through. And it's been that gut, like we got to push through it, and we got to walk through this open door, as scary as it is, because of that gut discernment feeling.
Mm-hmm. And is that something that you've begun to trust more, or is it something that's you've always trusted from the beginning?
I think it's we trust it more, but it's always been there. There's no way that we would have left our job if we didn't trust our gut. I mean, we Samantha and I left our best performing year, and even our bosses looked at us like we were crazy. They thought, why are you not waiting this out a couple more months to get paid? And we were going to make life-changing money this past year. And we just knew that we can't wait for the perfect opportunity. And it was our gut. Our gut said, now is the time. No excuses. It's time to take the leap. And we took it. And so I think that's a lot of times that separates entrepreneurs versus people that, climb the corporate ladder. Is usually it comes down to trusting your gut instinct that you were designed for this and this was your purpose, and you either have the courage to do it or you don't.
Yeah. Life is made of constant change, whether we like it or not, and many say the only constant in life is change. Sarah and Samantha, how do you try to keep up with change? That's something actually that I've carried with myself for a long time, that the only thing that's constant is change. And I've always looked at change as an opportunity for growth. And I think that a lot of people allow change to get in their way and to steal their joy and steal their happiness and prevent them from making big moves that they wanted to do next. They allow change to just be an excuse. And for both of us, we were raised by very driven parents who showed us, what sacrifice is worth and where sacrifice can get you. And I think
think that has helped us through, any time change presents itself, we're in control of how we respond to it. That's one of our biggest messages is life is going to happen no matter what. It's up to you how you respond. So for us, I would say we definitely look at change as an opportunity for growth, and we're going to make the most of it.
So how do you keep up with change that's happening around you? I mean, obviously you've got a website and you're marketing, you're doing speaking and things. So there's change on the internet, for example, in terms of marketing and things. How do you keep up with that?
You just have to keep a close eye on it. And what's great is that it's pretty easy when this is what we do 24/7. And so we're kind of involved in it all the time. And then also as we grow this network, we have met so many different people in the industry that have been able to give us advice or things that, have you guys looked into doing this? Have you thought about doing this? And I think that that's just staying aware and never getting comfortable in where you're at. And that's why I said, with entrepreneurs, we're never done. You're always wanting to make sure your product is evolving and is flowing with the internet and with the new hip kind of things that your audience wants. And so I think it's just keeping close to what's going on and being aware.
What is your favorite book on entrepreneurialism, business, personal development, leadership, or motivation? And can you tell us why you have chosen it?
Yeah. My favorite book is Joel Osteen, and it's The Power of I Am. And it really talks about your divine destiny and finding out what I love most about the book is it talks about how, your DNA and how no one on the entire earth will ever walk with your DNA. And so you have a purpose and it's uniquely designed for you. And I was reading this book after I took the leap of faith and started this journey. And it really encouraged me to know that I do have the power within myself to create the life that I want and that no one can tell me that I can't. And so, it's a very refreshing read for somebody that wants encouragement for the power that they have within themselves.
Everyone, when you have a busy life, listening to audiobooks is a great way to expand your knowledge in the time when you may be doing other things, such as driving or when you are at the gym. We have a special offer for you of a free audiobook of your choosing. To choose your free audiobook, go to www.freeaudiobookoffer.com. As long as you've not already signed up, then you will qualify. Sarah and Samantha, what I'd like to do now is speculate about the future a little bit with you.
Okay.
What one thing would you do with your business if you knew that you couldn't fail?
What one thing? I think that we would, this is already the plan and the vision anyway, but I think that we would take it nationally. Our biggest vision is to end up having a tour around the country first and then around the world, where we just want to put out that message, never be average, and we want to leave a legacy with it. We want it to stand after us, and that would be our biggest goal, is to make such a big impact that it lasts after we're gone.
So have you got a plan for that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we're doing is, you put in the motion, the steps, and speaking at women's conferences, which we already are signed up for here in the future, is the start of it. Working on writing our next book, because you don't ever want to go on tour without a book. And then also getting involved in the community and getting involved in the industry as much as possible. So again, it takes time. That's the big picture. So scaling back right now, we're at the steps of building our audience and building our name and building our message.
What skill, if you were excellent at it, would help you the most to double your business?
So Samantha and I were yin and yang. So my skill is speaking and thinking on my feet. That's always been a skill set in every business I've been in. I've always been asked to, speak at conferences, lead visits. That's just been a strength of mine. And then Samantha's strength is really that intellectual thinking, and she does a majority of our writing. She can put things into words more beautifully and eloquently than I could ever. And so really it's helping each other build on those strengths, but also, helping me through the writing and I'm helping her through the speaking. So it's really awesome to see how different our strengths are and how different our opportunities are, and be able to build on that.
In 5 years from now, if a well-known business publication was publishing an article on your business after talking to your customers and suppliers, what would you like it to say?
I think it would be something, so 5 years from now, I think it would be something like, have you met Sarah and Samantha from Never Be Average? These are two women you need to know.
Why?
Because it'll change your life.
Okay, thank you. We're now at the part of the show where you share 3 golden nuggets with us. So, Sarah and Samantha, what is your favourite quote and how have you applied it?
So our favorite quote is, this was the best advice we were ever given, is if somebody is giving you their opinion, which when you're going after something, especially when you're an entrepreneur or you're doing something different, everyone has an opinion about what you're doing. And a lot of times it's not shed in the most positive light. So one of the pieces of advice that we were given was, if somebody's not trying to do what you're trying to do, so going after the career that you're trying to do, live the lifestyle that you're trying to do, their opinion doesn't matter. You can respect it, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And that's even with parents, family, friends, coworkers, whatever. If they're not trying to be a motivational speaker, then their opinion doesn't matter about what we're doing. And so that has been the most inspirational quote. And that's what keeps us at our core, is when we get a lot of opinions like, you're crazy, we don't know what you're doing. It may be crazy to you, but are you trying to do what I'm trying to do? And if you're not, then I respect your opinion, but it doesn't affect me. And I think that separating that, especially when you're going after a dream or a vision, is very, very important.
Do you have any favorite online resources that you can share with us?
So online, one of the biggest one is, and a lot of it came even when I was in the gym, is motivational videos on YouTube. There are so many speeches there, like Les Brown, many like him, that are killer for when you are just down and you just feel like you can't go for it anymore, or that your vision is too big and you can't do it. You Google motivational videos in YouTube and spend 15 minutes and you'll leave with an extra pep in your step. And I think that that's one of the best online resources for a lot of it. We can find all the materials on how to do things, but a lot of it is that inner soul, that motivation that you need. And a lot of times we forget to feel that, because that's all you need. That's what will carry you in the end.
And what is your best advice to other entrepreneurs?
Is, if a vision is placed in your heart, go after it. Have the courage. Don't hold back. Don't care what others think. It's better to fail than not try. That would be my advice.
Everyone, if you didn't manage to get a note of Sarah's and Samantha's favourite resources or the favourite book, then you can find the links on Sarah and Samantha's show notes page. Just go to theentrepreneurway.com and search for Sarah or Samantha in the search box, or you can search for Sarah Rusca or Samantha Messersmith in the search box. Sarah and Samantha, is there anything else that you'd like to add about your business?
Our business is about designing the life that you want to live. And so however that fits for anyone, that's what works. And so that's what our business is if you feel in your gut there's something more and that you were designed to live a greater life, that's what we're here for.
Sarah and Samantha, it's been an absolute honour having you on the show. It's been great hearing about you pursuing your dream and having belief enough to be able to quit your job and do what you're doing. And you've really given us a great insight into the entrepreneur way. So thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Entrepreneur Way. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter @Neil D. Ball.